Howdy friends, my name is Billy Bob Baddigger, and if you've clicked on this video, then you want to learn my 12 techniques for becoming a terrible metal detector. Now sure, you can go on to the YouTube and find all sorts of tips and tricks about how to improve your metal detecting skills, but by the time this video is done, you'll have a dozen ways to become a more terrible metal detector. That's right, miss more targets, get more frustrated, waste more time. All right, let's get started. The first technique we call the high-speed flyby. And on the high-speed flyby, what you always want to do is protect your coil. Yeah, we know they have plastic covers on them to protect them and stuff, but we got to make sure we don't ever touch anything with our coil. When applying the high-speed flyby technique, you can avoid always getting too close to the surface of the soil. And of course, that added safety of never touching your coil to anything. No grass, no sticks, no anything. The second technique that you can apply to become a more terrible metal detector is called the Tiger Woods technique. It's also called the slap shot. Looks like this right here. You see that? By applying the slap shot technique, you can reduce your effective range, you can avoid the personal effort of twisting and keeping your detector close to the ground, and you can avoid being bothered by all them beeps and stuff like that. So if you want to be a less effective metal detector, apply the Tiger Woods technique. Now the third technique to become a more terrible metal detector is called Toddler Art. Now that's one of my favorite techniques. Toddler Art is a way to reduce your effective coverage. Things to remember when applying the Toddler Art technique is to go wherever you want to avoid a systematic coverage of the ground you're detecting. And you want to always just be inspired and creative to go any place you want at any time, because there could be something over there. So always remember the Toddler Art technique. Now, a fourth technique to become a more terrible metal detector is called the Zigzag Swing. Now, you see how I'm doing the zigzag technique right here? By applying the zigzag technique, you can effectively skip about 2/3 of the ground, but cover more of it. So you see that? It's a win-win. This technique is called the ADHD Technique. And what y'all do is you take your sensitivity and you turn it all the way up, as far as it can go. And then you take your volume, you turn that up as far as it can go. You turn everything up as far as it can go. That way, when you move your detector over the soil, you hear everything. I mean, I'm talking about every minute microscopic particle of anything metallic in the soil for the last 1,000 years. That way you can hear them all. And that'll help you be a worse detector than you are today. Boy, it's a good thing I came along, isn't it? Let's move to the next one. The sixth technique is called the Sumo Technique, S-O-O-M-O. And that means strike off on my own. That means you just take off and you go any place you want to. This technique is also called the Star Trek technique because the goal is to go where no man has gone before. So you always want to find a spot that you think nobody ever detected before, maybe no people have ever been to. Just strike off out into up in yonder woods and just start taking your detector any place and start swinging. The seventh principle is called the bargain bin cheapskate technique. Now I look out there and I ain't spending no $200 on no metal detector. Heck, I found this one at a garage sale for 15 bucks and I talked him down to $8.50. I mean, sure, it's not going to be as sensitive as one that costs a couple $100 or $300, and it doesn't really tell you the difference between anything, and all the sounds seem to be the same. And of course, you use this and you might skip over a lot of valuable targets, but the most important thing is spending the least amount of money. Ain't that the truth? So always remember, bargain bin cheapskate technique. Technique number 8 is the FMF technique, which stands for frustrated by unending mundane finds. The thing to remember here is if you're in an area and you get a handful of pull tabs or bottle caps or aluminum foil, stuff like that, always leave the area right away. I mean, that's just proof that people have been there and probably dropped valuable stuff, coins, jewelry, and especially if the bottle caps are old, there's probably some older stuff around there too. And why would you want to be there? That's right. As soon as you get a handful, leave the area. Become a more terrible metal detector. Apply the FMF technique. Technique number 9 is to always maintain historical ignorance. Always avoid places where people used to live or gather or play sports or travel through or especially exchange currency. Whatever you do, never talk with older folks and ask them where they used to hang out and where their grandparents used to hang out. Never go to the library and get old maps of the area or read about the history of where the church picnics used to take place or where old school buildings used to be. Always maintain historical ignorance. Become a more terrible metal detector. Number 10 is the PBS technique. PBS stands for probably been searched. If you're driving your car past an area and you see an old park or something like that, and you think to yourself, I bet somebody's already searched here. Well, then don't go there. You know they probably found everything that there was to find, so there ain't no use in you wasting your precious time going there and looking. So always remember the PBS technique. Probably been searched, probably been searched. Right behind me here is the site of a 3-story Victorian mansion that was built in 1900 and burned down, but I know for a fact that a guy already metal detected here. And so, you know, what's the use of me going there? So always remember the PBS principle. Rule number 11 for becoming a more terrible metal detector is to only dig the loudest signals. Don't waste your time on the thin, high tones of silver dimes or Indian head pennies buried deep. That's a waste of your precious time. All we want to do is dig the big stuff, right? The loudest stuff. Our collection of crushed soda cans and bicycle parts and old plow bottoms, that's what's going to impress him in the end. Besides, we don't have time to dig all those tiny little high tones from brass antique buckles 150 years old and stuff like that. That's for them other people wasting their time. We want the big stuff. So remember, always dig the loudest signals. Let's move on. Well, it's time for number 12. Number 12 principle for how to become a more terrible detector is to never look back. That's right. Once you've been to an area and detected it once, applying all 12 principles, never return. You ain't gonna find nothing anyway. If you go back, you hardly found anything the first time. So if you wanna be a more terrible metal detector, never go back to a place you found a bunch of stuff before. Yeah, good boy. Good boy, Mackie. Well, folks, listen, I appreciate you hanging with me this far. And listen, something I want to let you know. I shared these 12 techniques with you. I just want to keep it between you, me, and the dog, if you know what I'm talking about. Last thing I want you doing with these 12 valuable tips about how to be a more effective, terrible metal detector is to have you sharing it with other people, laughing with your friends about it, posting it to your Facebook page, or worst of all, put it on your own YouTube channel so others can see it. Listen, there's not room for many terrible metal detectors out there. There's only a few of us as it is. The last thing we need is more people being terrible metal detectors. So it's just between you and me. Let's keep it on the lowdown, if you know what I'm talking about. Anyhow, this is your buddy old Billy Bob, and I appreciate Steve having me here on the History in the Hand Metal Detecting channel. Brought me in because I'm so good, not just looking, if you know what I'm talking about. Anyhow, we'll catch you next time. Get out there and be a worse metal detector you can be.